Welcome to everyone who has spared some time to join us for this webinar. My name is Nitin Padte, and I'm principal at Maina Devi Bajaj International School, and I'm the director of the 4 schools of Rajasthani Sammelan Education Trust. The seminar is focusing on working with children at home in a lockdown mode. Okay. Now, it's been 2 months since there has been a lockdown. Children are at home, and there seems to be no end in sight. Children are probably getting restless at home. Parents are anxious to return to normal. There are so many questions and few and sometimes confusing answers. We are wondering, when will schools reopen? What will this world look like when that happens? How do I deal with the growing restlessness among my children? What is going through their minds? Am I doing enough to support them as a parent? These are some of the questions that we are suffused with and confused with. So today, we have with us to answer some of these questions. First of all, we have Ms. Shwetambara Sabharwal. She is a clinical psychologist and a relationship counselor. Welcome, Shwetambara.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
And we also have Ms. Shalika Merchant. She is a dentist and she is a parent of 2 students at Maina Devi Bajaj International School. Shwetambara, let me begin with you.
Sure.
Can you please describe what is it that children may be going through as the lockdown continues well into the 2nd month? What are the indicators and signals that parents should look for?
Sure. Thank you for that extremely relevant question, sir. I think before I answer those questions, I'd really like to start with a blanket statement for all the children, parents, and teachers that, these are solemn times, even abnormal times. There is absolutely no formula known to you or me which tells us how to deal with something like this. It is monumental in its novelty and difficulty. Also, that there is no right or wrong. So, in a time like this, I would really like to start by telling everyone to be patient, be willing to explore, be willing to learn, and be willing to accommodate slips on your parts and others, because it's the only way that we can get a grip on the world with what's going on, by exploring more and more options. And I guess that's exactly what we're doing here today. Now I'll dive straight into your questions. So one, that what do I think that children are going through? An entire gamut of emotions, I think, right now. Like I said, this is a monumental change in their routine, in their life, in the life of their parents, in their household. And that can be a very big shock for children. So, in terms of the emotions, children could be feeling a lot of confusion, worry, and anxiety in all forms of intensity and, its types. So, that's very important for us to keep in mind. They could be feeling sad and lonely because they are not meeting their friends, they are not having play dates, they are not going to birthday parties, and most importantly, not attending school. They could also be quite demotivated at this time, because children love to learn in groups and, in the presence of their friends. And also other emotions such as anger and frustration. In terms of the second part of your question, which is what are the indicators that parents can look out for? With children, I have 4 very simple rules. They're very honest. When something's up, you will know in terms of their behavior and lifestyle that something's going on. So what you really need to look out for is any changes in appetite, even if it increases too much, any change in sleep patterns, any change in bowels, or behavioral changes. And these can be emotional also, observable emotions. So too much crying, anger, impulsive behavior, volatility in their emotions. So those are the indicators. So back to you.
Um, you highlighted a whole gamut of emotions that our children are feeling. There's anxiety, they might feel emotionally disturbed, they might feel like crying, they might feel like angry, sometimes they might feel clingy. And now let me take this story into a home and speak with Shalika now. Shalika, in the light of what Shwetambara is saying and what you are experiencing, what I would like you to start off with is first of all by describing a typical day at home.
Yeah. So, like Shwetambara said, these are very solemn times, very different times. So a day in our house also looks very different from what it was before. But we realized that one way to take care of the anxiety is to set a routine, even if it's a different routine, but to set a routine. So what we do is we allow them a little bit leeway in the time they get up in the morning. They don't have to get up so early because they don't need to go to school. But once they're up, we divide the day as the first part of the day is a structured kind of a day, and the online schooling that MBIS was doing really helped with that. The kids were doing something. They knew that they were going to meet their teachers, there were going to be classes, there were going to be worksheets. So we like the first half of the day to be structured, and then we like a little bit of quiet time, a downtime. So there's a reading, there's a few board games. There are times when they don't want to be quiet on their own, so we have to kind of be quiet with them, maybe some art and craft activities, etc. Then we go on to a time where again it's completely unstructured. It's uh, they're allowed to make a mess. They're allowed to make a spaceship out of the bedroom. They're allowed to have their Lego pieces all over the living room. They're allowed to make my bean bags into Formula One cars. And so it's basically unstructured. They make the rules, they make the games, and they basically do whatever they want to do. And then we want to give them a little bit of physical exercise. So we do use the links that the school has sent for yoga or some kind of workouts, even the Shamak Tower dances, etc. And then we try to quiet down again. Of course, there is clean up your room and some screen time. So that's how a typical day goes now.
You also mentioned that you made a particular mention of the online learning, and this whole city and this country seems to be going in that mode of online learning. Okay, yeah, as you know, MBIS was among the first schools to go online. Can you just tell us a little more about how that experience has been with you?
Oh, it's actually been it's terrific because I feel that number one, the kids got to the schools and this whole epidemic started so fast. The kids didn't have any closure on where they were in school, so they could continue whatever topics they were doing in school. It was when it started. It was such a novelty for them. My 10-year-old had an email address of her own, which the school had generated, and she had a laptop of her own, and there was a lot of excitement. There was a learning curve though, because the kids are so used to the classes being interactive and debating with the teacher and talking with the teacher, and here they had to learn to unmute their mic and mute their mic, and there was always we parents had to be aware of when the invites came in. So there was a learning curve, but I think that the children did really well. I mean, children are so resilient, they are so adaptive, and I think they had fun in their online class. They really
Uh,
did.
Thank you, Shalika. Your description gives me to understand that you and your family seem to have settled into this new normal in a very smooth way. Of course, there will be some tricky questions later on where I will challenge your normal settling in. But for right now, let us take it that is all going very well. Uh, Shwetambara, you described some of the emotions that the children may be going through, some of the issues that the children may be going through. Can you please tell us what should parents do to minimize the impact of this lockdown?
I'd like to start with stating that there are basically four pillars of children's development, and I don't need to tell you that, but I hope that this benefits our listeners. But the four pillars basically are cognitive development, speech and language, social and emotional, and physical. Now, lockdown has taken away some opportunities from children, exposure to certain environments from children. They're basically at home and they are not being able to go to school, play, have PE or play in parks and basically exercise. So those are the two areas that I really would recommend that parents look into. The first I'd like to talk about is social and emotional. It is an incredibly valuable time for parents to create and invest and nurture the bonding and give them an extremely stable and emotionally secure home. It's very, very important that parents demonstrate healthy values, happiness values in the house. They stay calm and resilient because, yes, this is a very stressful time even for them. Also, it's important that we address some of the children's worries. I would recommend that, when you're spending quality time together, sit down and allow them to have a voice of all of their thoughts, ranging from negative to positive to all kinds of fiction and imagination. If they are able to talk, you will be able to gauge where they are at emotionally. Also, it is important for children at this age to connect with their friends, which they are not getting in terms of psychosocial development. So, while there are disadvantages of screen time and they're already spending a lot of time on screen, I would definitely recommend that once a day they virtually connect with a friend in terms of an interactive play. Fix a play activity for something, for them to do something together, because they may not really sit down like you and me and have a chat. But an activity together will allow them to interact with each other with some focus on an achievable, measurable success. So those are the things that I would recommend in terms of social emotional. The second thing that parents must look into is their physical growth and development. And this is such a challenge right now, in apartments with parents. We get asked all the time, what are the things that we can do, to keep our kids active. The best thing I would say is get them to help you with chores, where they are needed to be active. You can be as creative as you want, from spot jogging to stretching to yoga together with them on YouTube. But make sure you squeeze in some exercise because that is extremely important for them and you as a family.
Thank you, Shwetambara. Some important messages coming out from what you said there. I think an important aspect at this point in time is that children are so confused and they have so many questions that I think that togetherness that you're describing, that be with your children, spend some time with them. I think that's such an important message for the children. Also, I think spending time with their friends as much as possible, okay, and quality family time. I think those are the important things that you have highlighted out here. Shalika, coming back to your description of this very smooth functioning household under lockdown, I would now like to ask you, within this scenario, what has been the biggest challenge that your family has faced since the lockdown?
To begin with, sir, it's not been smooth at all.
Well,
It's just
I'm glad to hear that.
it's one thing to describe it and in theory, and practice is a completely different ball game, right? So yeah, I think the major challenge, I mean, when there was one way to look at it. For the first time in so long, we were all at home together, right? Me and my husband both work. My elder daughter is at school and then at practice till 4 in the evening. So we are never at home, all of us. So we were at home and we kind of wanted to look at it as family time, as time we get together. But there have been challenges. The kids have felt claustrophobic. The kids they probably don't know how to verbalize it. But, my younger one will throw a tantrum, which I know he usually doesn't throw because he has missed going down and playing with his friends, in the building, or he has missed meeting his friends at school. And my older one will just go quiet and, she will lock herself in her room and stuff like that. So to get them to get them into a space in their mind where they realize that this is a difficult time, it's a slightly different time, but it's okay, that's life, you just get through it, that without them taking this hard, to make a light of it. That has been the toughest part, I think.
Yeah. There you go, Shalika. Without taking away from the tremendous effort that you have made to smoothen things at home, we also are looking at, okay, we may be seeming calm and quiet on this presentation, but I think as our viewers might be experiencing, they also need to know that even we who are saying that things have settled in do continue to face some of the challenges that we are talking about. Yeah. Shwetambara, we have spoken about how we are going to, how parents are involved in taking care of their children and what are the challenges. Okay. But one question that comes to my mind is that when taking care of the emotional needs of their children, parents often forget to take care of their own emotional needs. Now, is this right? And how does this impact a family in a lockdown situation?
Is it right? It's bang on, and it's one of my favorite questions, I guess, up until now, because it is extremely important for parents as adults to take care of ourselves, to be able to take care of the little ones in our house. And this is an area where maybe I could have consumed the entire webinar giving suggestions on this one. But what I'll try and do is consolidate three basic areas where parents can take care of themselves in. When we make compartments for ourselves and structure things, it gets easier to achieve. So I always use these three categories in my therapy. That is, that all of us, each one of us, is born with three things, and that is the body, mind, and a soul. There is no a special child of God who has something more or something less. So these are the three that needs to be taken care of, needs to be nourished, and also these remain to be our best ammunition till date to take care of anything. So when I talk about the body, I'm talking about healthy habits in terms of food, appetite, exercise, meditation, trying to get some sun. It's difficult, I guess, in a place like Bombay, but to take care of your body is extremely important, because that is basically where health starts from. Then we come to the mind, and another thing that I must add with the body, especially in these times, is when you feel tired, please rest and please ask for help. Then I come to the mind. It's extremely important that we keep our mind focused on now, the here and now, the task at hand, and indulge in rational thinking. Sometimes news can take you, your thoughts can take you on this roller coaster ride between the past and the future, and that definitely impacts your mind in a negative way, because it leads to negative emotions. So focus on the present, focus on learning something out of every day, every experience. It keeps the mind extremely nourished. So that's very important. Do something that makes you happy, invest in your happiness. And like you rightly said, we often forget that we often forget to do that. Now, when I talk about the soul, it's a little bit surprising, for a lot of my patients, that coming from a scientific mind and scientific background, I talk about spirituality a lot, but I do have a bent towards spiritual psychology, and I would really encourage you to spend some time in connecting with your soul. Now, there are various ways to do it, and so I'll share with what works for me. Basically, we are meant to be compassionate people. If you can extend help to one single person, giving in the smallest whatever form to one needy person, or giving back to Mother Earth, nurturing plants in your house, these are things that are food for your soul and can lead to a lot of grounding, a lot of stability, and happiness. So
Thank
those are
you.
things that I feel could help with health.
Thank you, Shwetambara. That was so well put. Keeping your mind, body, and soul together. Also, not letting your mind, take flights of imagination and worry and about what is going to happen. Okay, and as a clinical psychologist and a practicing counselor, you come across as somebody who has all of this sorted out very well. But now I'm going to go back to Shalika and find out how does she keep her mind, body, and soul together, and how does it pan out as a mother who is trying to take care of her own emotional needs while she's trying to cater to her children's emotional needs. How does it impact you?
Um, it's it's we're learning every day, right? So it's when the lockdown started, there was this whole thing about, oh, I'm finally home and I'm trying to do a million things, like, make special things in the kitchen for the kids. And all of us are comparing notes on WhatsApp. Oh, I made this today, and stuff like that. And slowly I realized that I was burning myself out, so there, because it's not just cooking, right? There is cleaning as well. There is no help at home who's going to come in and clean up after you. And I swear the dirty vessels in the sink, they reproduce every time I'm not looking at them. I turn my back and they reproduce, I swear. So I slowly realized that I had to strike a balance between letting go of a few messes in my house, of maybe making simple food one day rather than trying to make everything a special effort. And just sit down and watch Harry Potter with my daughter. My daughter is in the Harry Potter phase, and she likes to finish a book and watch the movie. So I wanted to just give up everything, watch Harry Potter with her, because I love Harry Potter and she loves Harry Potter. Or I just wanted to do a little yoga, a little stretching. So I would take time out and say, okay, this is 15 minutes when you can't enter the room, and this is what I'm going to do. Or simple things like binge on a Netflix show. So I think you just have to understand where you need to give yourself a break and say, okay, this is me time, and just give me 15 minutes, because it's better for the kids to have a cool, calm, sane mom than a mom who has just lost her cool over things. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Shalika. I think you addressed many of the areas that Shwetambara spoke about. But one of the things that I picked from what you were talking about was food, food, and more food. People are talking so much about food, and people are getting at home, and they are cooking a variety of things. There are people who have never cooked before who are beginning to cook. Now, in terms of food and dietary habits, um, have your dietary habits, have your children's dietary habits changed to adjust to this lockdown, or do you try and continue in the same vein as earlier?
So, like I said, so when we started off, it was this enthusiasm of making something special for them, because as a working mom, we barely cook for them, maybe just on weekends, etc. But yeah, we did realize that every time you're making the cookies and the brownies, and they're not exactly healthy. So what we made a conscious effort to say that during the week, Monday to Friday, we'll eat regular ghar ka khana, the healthy stuff which we used to eat all the time, right? So we didn't change that. We consciously made an effort not to change that for us or for the kids. And then over the weekend, yeah, we used to swiggy stuff, right? I mean, the kids are used to swigging a McDonald's or going to, a Pizza Hut in a mall over the weekend. They're used to it. They're used to that treat. So over the weekend, we, as a form of the treat, we do then go ahead and make our cookies and, make our brownies and make our pasta, make our pizza. And we are trying to keep a constancy in that, especially because I know that the kids are not getting that kind of physical exercise that they are used to. I mean, no matter what we do at home, it's very different from being at school 8 hours a day, or playing for a couple of hours in your building lawn. So I know they are not getting that kind of physical exercise. So I want to keep the food simple, at least during the week, except if it's a birthday or it's a special day for any one of them, or I feel that they're really low today and they need like a push. Other than that, we're trying to keep it regular.
All right. From many parents and other people, I keep hearing that how much children are participating in cooking. And as an aside, I think when this lockdown ends, some of the children may have discovered a new passion, and maybe catering colleges might have a greater demand, saying that, hey, I want to become a cook. Okay, yeah. Shwetambara, coming to you, we have been talking about this lockdown for a little bit, but when schools reopen, I'm sure everything is going to look different. You know, at a principals forum, it was being discussed that in Canada, for example, they are planning to have a space of 4 square meters per student, and elsewhere, children will be made to sit in cubicles. They'll be facing their teacher, and they will not be seeing each other, but classes will be held in that manner, because that is the kind of restart to schools that is being visualized. There is no possibility that we are going to be able to herd 20, 30, 40 children in the same room. Okay. Now, my question to you is, how will this impact the children and their mindset?
Sir, as far as looking into the future and how schools will look, how offices will look, how homes will look 5, 10, 15 years from now, it's all about flights of fantasy, and of course, finding all sorts of different solutions which are based in circumstances and culture. So, I mean, it's a great suggestion, maybe for Canada, and, I feel that this might have some practical issues for us. But coming to your question, how will children be impacted? I think that children are incredibly adaptive and resilient, and I think that the new environment will excite them. They will meet it with enthusiasm, but what children really need to be able to adapt and learn from is basically prior information. Don't surprise children. I think if we can inform what is coming up, there is no confusion, there is no anxiety. If we can give them a good enough reason, I think they're brilliant in beautifully abiding. I'm actually more concerned about the parents welcoming this kind of system. And what comes back to me is, as a child, I remember when we got thrown out of class and we had to stand outside class through the whole period. Just with eye contact with my friends, we were able to say so much and communicate and stay connected. So please don't underestimate the power of eye contact. Children will manage to connect, and I think they'll be fine.
That's a very hopeful picture that you're creating, and I'm really glad that, and I really hope that that is the direction in which we manage to go. Shalika, coming back to you, can you just describe some questions? Children are inquirers and they want to find out. So can you describe to us some tricky questions that have been raised by your children at home, and kind of conversations that have been happening at home, and what have your responses?
So when the lockdown started, prior to that as well, even my younger one, who was in senior KG at that point of time, was quite informed. Their teacher in school had showed them an entire video about the coronavirus, and he knew exactly how the virus looked, and it had a crown on its head. And he was taught the happy birthday song to wash his hands for 20 seconds and stuff like that. So they were quite informed, but questions always come up. So the thing he kept saying was, but teacher says that it's wearing a crown on its head, but I can't see any crowns anywhere around here. And then we had to kind of explain to him how small a virus is, and
I think we may have lost Shalika for a bit. While we wait for her to come back, Shwetambara, may I ask you a question? Shwetambara, one of the issues that has been coming up, and parents have also written to me and asked me, and this question is for both you and Shalika, that so much time is being spent in front of a screen. Okay, How are we going to wean children off this screen time once things return return to the normal? Okay, what is the for Shalika also? What is your plan, and what is the impact of the screen time? And for you as clinical psychologist, what is it doing to our children? How are they going to settle in? What first of all, what is this doing to them? This so much screen time. This was a serious concern from quite a few parents. How do we get them off this? Shwetambara.
Absolutely. Shalika, with your permission, I'll take this one first.
Yes.
I also I'm observing the questions that are coming up as well on the public chat, and there are at least four or more regarding the whole topic of screen and screen learning. And I think what's really important for us to understand is that online learning and on screen learning has become a kind of a necessity at the moment. It is something that needs us to adapt to. And when there is something which becomes a necessary evil, if I may call it that, we need to take all the necessary precautions and it becomes a lesser of an evil. So I'm talking about simple things like screen brightness, adjust it. Give your children, anti-glare glasses if you're concerned about their eyesight. Please look into parental controls and privacy policies on your every gadget in the house, because the online space is, as adults, we are aware that it's open to any kind of information. There's too much out there on the web, and that's really our worry, that our children should not get exposed to something that they're not ready to see or listen. And so definitely spend some time into privacy policies and parental control measures. Now, one of the biggest disadvantages of screen time, as as a doctor, that I have always spoken to parents, is that screen is not interactive. So even, if you can make their screen time mildly interactive with you, ask them questions on what they're watching, what did they understand, what is going on. I often play dumb, and I ask my son that, oh, I didn't understand this language, can you explain to me what's going on? If he's watching a video on skateboarding, for example, on YouTube, what are the techniques involved? So ask them a lot of questions and make it an interactive exercise, and there, its disadvantages reduce. Now, one quick thing that I want us to all remember, that children learn in different ways. There are different forms of learning. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. So if your child is someone who learns with hands-on experience, you will have to compensate for that at home. That is something that online learning cannot give you. So for example, I do fractions and division with my son while we are cooking. So, how are we going to divide a recipe or multiply the recipe for 4 people or by 8 people? And he's able to get interested, get enthusiastic, and also understand that. So that's a word that I'd also like to put in, that please become aware of the dominant learning style of your child. And this could again become an advantage in terms of learning abilities. And I have spoken earlier, and I'd like to emphasize again, that screens have to be used every day for a tiny period of time for social connect, because the disadvantage of social disconnect is far more than disadvantage of them being online.
Thank you so much, Shwetambara. I think we are looking at a world that is going online, and this online is going to be a reality. Okay, I mean, the travel is going to come down. Okay, and smart thing to do is going to be staying at home and working online. So I think understanding how online works and what are the limitations and what are the strengths is really important. Shalika, we had lost you for a bit. If you can take this question at this point in time, how is this online fixation that people are talking about, that children will come to become a habit? How is it panning out in your case?
So it's very funny because 6 months ago, when my older daughter, she was 9 at that point of time, and we bought her own laptop, and I was so against the idea because I thought that would be too much screen time. And my husband, who's an IT professional, he said that no, she has to be as used to working on a laptop for school projects as she should be with books, because that's going to be their reality. And thank God for that, because today without that laptop she would have never been able to do the online schooling. So it's there was a parent who in the chat also kind of asked me the advantages, whether we like online schooling better or we like the actual schooling better. And the fact is that we just, I mean, I love real school. Obviously, we all like real school better than online school because of the social interaction and the lesser screen time. But it's lemonade from lemons, right? You have to play the cards you're dealt. You cannot decide. It's a situation where you can't have real school, so you will have online school. So all the rules we had about screen time now are a little more lax. It's a good idea. Shwetambra has given some really good ideas about parental control. We are using a search engine called Kiddle for our daughter's laptop, which kind of controls the data that is available for her. But yeah, I am still concerned. I am still concerned that once this epidemic is over, and when it is time to get back to normal life, I don't know whether we'll be able to so quickly reduce the screen time we had back to what it was before. I don't know whether we can go back. I don't know whether we can do that.
I think there are some very relevant points made both by Shwetambara and you regarding what is it going to look like? How are children going to be spending time? How much time are they going to be spending on the screen? At the Maina Bajaj International School, what we have been doing is that we have been sending regular videos and advisories on what parents could be doing with the younger children in terms of giving them adequate exercise. Okay, Shwetambara, I have a question for you. Now, we are all aware that with this cloud of COVID sitting on our heads, the children who went into lockdown are going to be different from children who return to school. At a discussion among educationists, it was being strongly suggested that emotional education needs to become a part of the curriculum. Right now, you get into learning, behavioral psychology and clinical psychology and other kind of psychology in international schools in grades 11 and 12. But it is being suggested that that is no longer going to work. That emotional quotient and emotional intelligence will have to be nurtured right from an early age. Shwetambara, what is your take on this?
Here, because this is something that I believe in, I have fought for, and I have propagated for a very, very long time. I think that psychoeducation needs to be made mandatory for children from a very young age. Not just schools, but even parents, we focus so much on cognitive ability, dance, drama, sports, and pushing children to perform in that because we are able to see measurable success. We are able to feel so great about our upbringing when we see them up on stage, and we feel so proud of them. And but what we are really forgetting over here is that we are not training children enough in abilities to face life, for resilience, for grit, for life skills. And for all this, psychoeducation is extremely important. We need to start focusing on EQ, not just in schools, but even at home with parents, where this needs to become a household priority.
Thank you very much. Because, with social distancing and when you return to school, we are also going to be thinking in terms of emotional distancing. Is that taking place right now? Of course, it is taking place when you're not meeting people. So, how is it going to pan out once people come together? And I think it's really significant that we are going to talk about emotional quotient and approach which within the curriculum which addresses this issue rather than only sticking to our main core subjects. Okay, now as we look for a vaccine to fight this COVID, and the world is beginning to collaborate with each other. It has such unprecedented collaboration has never been seen at a macro level. Okay? Schools are collaborating with each other. I meet on principals group all the time. Shalika, my question to you is, how does it pan out at a micro level? How does it pan out at a home level? Have parents been collaborating, and what is the nature of collaboration that is taking place between parents?
Um, yeah, we have we parents, thanks to WhatsApp and thanks to Zoom, we parents have really been each other's sounding boards. Simple things like somebody will make a recipe which is quick to make and has a lot of veggies in it, and then the other day we know that we can do that tomorrow. There was a mom who actually made a snakes and ladders game in a very different fun way, where she said that every time your kid lands on a multiple of 5, you ask them to do some kind of exercise. So if he lands on 5, do 5 squats. If he lands on 10, make him do like a plank for 10 seconds. If he lands on 15, etc., etc., which was a very fun way of making them do physical exercise. We've kind of been giving each other ideas. We've been brainstorming. We've been keeping an eye out for each other. If one of our kids doesn't turn up on an online class, we'll call each other up and say, did you not get the invite, or is your Wi-Fi not working? I have to go to work some of the days because I do have emergency duty. So I have moms who will WhatsApp call, set up a WhatsApp call between their kids and my kids, so that my kids don't feel that I'm not at home, and they will help them out with the homework. It's beautiful. I feel that it's nice to be in a support group where the others are going through the same thing. And I'd just like to give you a very, very simple example. My daughter had her 10th birthday during the lockdown, and of course we tried to make it special. We had a spa for her at home, and we made brownies, and we had a Zoom call with all her friends, and we played games and stuff like that. But there was a point where at the end of the day, even after all that happened, I was a little upset because I told this other mother that this is not how I imagined her 10th birthday would be. Like, a 10th birthday is a big deal. And this mother so sweetly told me that, Shalika, maybe because it was in the lockdown and because she did a Zoom call with all her friends, and a friend from Germany and a friend from Bangalore and a friend from Pune was all present for her birthday party, it'll probably be more memorable than it would have been if it was a normal birthday party.
Right.
And, that's such a nice thing to do, because her spirits rise and she feels that, oh yeah, this is probably a good thing. So the mothers have just been each other's support group. That's all I can say.
Oh, that's so beautiful to hear. I think, and this is going to have to continue. This will require to continue as we reopen on the other side, because unless we work together, unless we work as a community, I don't see how we can make this as a success. So willy-nilly, it has started off, Shalika. Like, few people have been collaborating and have been exchanging ideas. Yeah. Shwetambara, at a professional level, I was wondering if you could comment on the nature of collaboration that is happening within your profession to deal with various issues that are arising, and particularly relating to children at home.
Amount of research and work that is going on at the mental health professional level. Health professionals are working round the clock on helplines, because there is so much disturbance, emotional disturbance in the population at the moment. So there is a lot of collaboration. We are also struggling because we cannot meet patients, we cannot give them the kind of critical support that we are used to giving, that we would like to give. And not all our patients have networks, screens, gadgets, etc. So I must say that it's a big struggle at the moment. Sometimes it really does make us nervous as well, because there are some very serious cases that need critical support. But all in all, there is a significant amount of collaboration happening, taking place between mental health professionals, where, if I get to know that the patient lives close to someone else, a counselor I know, I try and make that counselor available to them, so that at least, a quick session can happen. We are struggling with rules and legalities around working online, because the web is a worrisome place when it comes to our kind of work. It requires a lot of confidentiality. So yes, we are also collaborating and trying to get our bearings right, as to how we can make ourselves available in the safest way for patients, and of course for the professionals.
Thank you, Shwetambara. We began this discussion by me talking about, a lockdown which has proceeded for over 2 months. We do not know what the future is going to look like. Okay, but both Shalika and you have cast a light on various issues that are faced by our children, and we have seen one angle from a professional viewpoint, and I think there have been a lot of nuggets of wisdom that have come out from this discussion. Shalika and Shwetambara, thank you so much for joining us, and I think it has been an insightful evening for everyone. Thank you.
Thank
It
you
was a
very much
pleasure.
for Lovely. Thank you very much for having us. I think Shalika will agree with me that not just, I mean, we both have benefited as mothers. Just like a tiny parting note, I would like to leave parents with. There's a lot of worry during this lockdown on trying to get constructive work done with children. Every moment doesn't have to be a productive, constructive moment. The fact that you are there, they are in your arms, you're around them, they're seeing you all the time, is very, very constructive. If they are getting bored, it's a very good thing and very important part of growing up. So get used to boredom, embrace boredom, and allow that a little bit in your homes. Because if we are going to try and pack our day with constructive work, I think that could make this lockdown a lot more difficult for all of us involved. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think you have concluded it so well. Parents who are extremely busy with their lives do keep talking about, I spend a quality weekend with my child, and we are spending quality time with their child. Often, what a child who's growing up is looking for is quantity. Okay, when they are doing small things, they just want you available for the small things, not for this big trip that we make out somewhere. And so this is a good lesson for all of us. Get bored a little bit. There's nothing wrong getting bored. I think that's a sweet little message to conclude this session with. Shalika and Shwetambara, thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.